because I need people to understand. Churches are automatically considered tax exempt under the 501c3 code of the IRS.
Right.
Now, tax exempt is different than not for profit. They're two different classifications.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
The churches are automatically considered tax exempt because they're a church. However, what Christians need to understand is just because we're automatically considered 501c3 tax exempt, that does not mean that there are not rules that do not require us to follow certain things in order to maintain that tax. Automatic tax exempt status just basically means we don't have to file for it.
Right.
Okay. So because there are 7 requirements on the IRS website, there are 7 requirements that particularly target churches that says in order for you to maintain your 501c3, you've got to do these 7 things. And the 7th requirement is you cannot engage in a violation of, quote, fundamental public policy. Now, fundamental public policy could be a number of things. For example, in 1983, Bob Jones University lost their case in Bob Jones v. United States in the Supreme Court because prior to 1983, Bob Jones didn't allow black people to attend their university. So they lost their tax exempt status for a while because they violated fundamental public policy. And people say, well, Bob Jones isn't a church. I recognize the fact that Bob Jones isn't a church. But the fact is, Bob Jones was 501c3, just like churches are 501c3. So whether you're a college, another educational institution, or a church, you're all under 501c3, yep. Therefore all have the same requirements. It doesn't matter that Bob Jones isn't a church. They're 501c3. Hollywood Church is 501c3. Now, Bob Jones had to apply for it. Hollywood Church did not have to. Emmanuel Baptist Church did not have to.
Right.
But all 3 of us are 501c3, and so therefore all 3 of us cannot violate fundamental public policy. And once this becomes a constitutional amendment and Pastor Will refuses to perform a same-sex wedding without a conscience clause in the amendment, you are violating fundamental public policy. And Jay Jones and the IRS can come after your tax-exempt status and take it away because you violated fundamental public policy. That is the immediate threat. And what that's going to do is that's going to require churches to add 40% to their budget to cover taxation. But what it'll also mean is that people that give to your church can't take that off of their taxes as donations because you're no longer a tax-exempt entity.
Yeah, you're not 501c3.
No.
Yeah, there are rules to it.
Yeah.
It is not just a let her fly, let her rip situation.
Automatic only means you don't have to apply.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you can't lose it.
So, and this is where I get worried, and this is why I'm trying so hard. And in the small church, you have a lot of small, kind of isolated churches in Virginia that are hanging on, and it breaks my heart anytime a church closes, a Bible preaching church closes. Because I can go off on a rant on church plants. It's fine. Plant churches. There's churches that need our help, though. It's more where I come from. Anyway, they're small, isolated churches that are not connected to each other, not connected to an organization like yours, or some of these nonprofit law firms that do religious freedoms that don't have those connections. They're the ones in trouble.
Yeah.
Because if they lose their 501c3, that probably means they're closing the doors. Because it does, a building costs money. It doesn't matter the size. Right. Granted, the bigger building you have, the more expensive it gets, but a small building.
A building that seats 200 people in most counties, north of $600,000.
Yeah.
In this economy. And plus, then you got buses.
Yeah, electric bills, landscaping, parking lot maintenance, all kinds of stuff they don't teach you about cemetery. Yeah. And these small churches that are barely hanging on as it is, and some of them, I've spoken to some over the last couple of years, been real hurt by pastors that are not part of their calling. You know what I mean? They just took it as a job.
Yeah.
And so now they're in trouble because of that. So finances are tight. You add 40% to that, it's done.
Yeah. They're not trying to make you a martyr by throwing you in jail or by taking away your license. They're trying to silence you.
Yeah.
And if they can shut you down, what better way to shut down a church than through taxation, Will? They shut you down through taxation.